Hi guys, good morning. Yeah, welcome to Eat Belgrade. My name is Nikola. I'm a part of the product team for DeFi Saver and as well as the CEO of the parent company. First off, I have to state the obvious. I'm sorry in advance for my voice. It's allergy season for me, so I hope I'll make it till the end. And yeah, fingers crossed, I guess. So that's why this is tea. Yeah. So before we kick it off with the main crypto Web3 stuff, I wanted to talk about like the wider picture, a bit of history about the internet, like before we actually got to the crypto part. And there was this brief period in the history of internet. It was like roughly maybe up to 2015, where the internet it grossed a significant number of users, but I have the old slides here, so that's not great. So there was this brief period in history where the internet kind of amassed this critical number of users, but we still haven't figured out how to monetize it fully. We haven't still developed the monetization tactics of the businesses. So it was this brief period where we kind of focused on simple products that kind of offered value, that did like one thing well. You had like these simple products like Medium, the blogging platform launched, and it was just like this distraction-free blogging platform for writing, for sharing ideas, for reading. It was very straightforward and very simple to use. It was a great product to use. You had like Unsplash. Maybe some of you used Unsplash for like stock photos. The idea of Unsplash was to offer free stock photos that photographers just wanted to share because they didn't want to actually sell their work. You had all these like creative hubs like Tumblr or these artistic hubs, or even Reddit. Reddit wasn't small, but it had like a large number of users, but it was still pretty niche. It was like this place where certain types of people went to kind of discuss their niche interests in their small little communities. There was this fun little website. It was called 8tracks. It was just a website where people shared playlists. It was that's all that it was. It was these fun little playlists. They were like centered around a theme, like maybe a specific moment, maybe a fandom, maybe a TV show, or like a very specific location, like a Lisbon coffee shop or something. It was fun, and it was community-based. And, over time, obviously, well, most of these weren't great businesses. Most of these didn't even have revenue models, and they had to pivot. Some of them pivoted. They had ads, but they weren't really sustainable as a business. They had to pivot towards they had to actually get to the monetization phase. Unsplash and Medium, they were basically free to use. The idea was to garner amass enough users so that, once they reach critical mass, they can kind of monetize them fully. That's kind of what happened. Medium is this kind of subscription-only AI-based content platform that kind of stopped prioritizing quality. Unsplash is now basically, it's owned by Getty Images, which is like a stock photo selling corporation, essentially. Some of them pivoted successfully. Reddit, famous, kind of just flipped the money-making switch and then pivoted to this like closed source model where they sold all the user data to Microsoft, et cetera, and like they made a shit ton of money. They did an IPO. 8tracks, for example, just died because there wasn't a great way to monetize it at the time, or they just kind of failed. But like the key thing for all these lovely products that we had in this brief period of maybe between 2010 and 2015 roughly was that they weren't in the money-making phase yet. They weren't yet optimizing for the revenue. And social apps are, for example, this very good example of this kind of evolution. If you used Instagram, for example, in 2012, in this period, before the acquisition, it was same as the other ones. It was this app that did like one very simple thing very well. It's the Unix philosophy, do one thing very well. It was sharing photos, obviously. It was very simple. It was actually a great user experience. It was fun to use. It was back then when UX was like a new term and people were talking about user experience. Instagram was celebrated for like this little tweak that they did when they would upload the photo in the background while you edited the caption. You probably heard of this. And then it seemed like the photo was uploaded very quickly. And you were like, whoa, this is so slick and smooth. So Instagram was really focusing on like the quality of that one thing that they did. So they tried to do this one thing very well. And when Facebook acquired Instagram, which had no revenue model at the time, like Facebook already knew the game because they were kind of an era earlier than Instagram. They were already very deep in the monetization phase, so that I kind of knew how to make money from this model, from this social model, which when Facebook was Facebook was showing ads, and obviously we're trying to scale that, basically make more money off of it, and essentially that runs down to showing more ads. And they looked at how people were using their app. They realized, well, okay, people would just check the app, see what their friends were up to, see that they're kind of up to date. There's nothing new, so I'll just close the app. And they realized that like the social interaction in these social apps was actually the bottleneck for their profit. And they just realized, okay, we'll just show more content. It doesn't matter that the user didn't really subscribe to it, or they're not like following these pages or whatever. Let's just show more content because we can show more ads like that. And that's how this algorithmic feed was born. That's how we moved to social apps being actually content consumption apps. And that's why essentially our 13-year-olds have Andrew Tate on their homepage feed. There's one very important key thing to understand here. Like essentially, if you look at the Instagram business model, what is good for Instagram is bad for their users. So what brings Instagram more money makes their product shittier, makes their users more anxious, agitated, addicted to scrolling. And you probably already know this, but and I'm stating the obvious, but it's very important to understand this as like this key figure of essentially this mismatch between the needs of the product, the interests of the business, and the needs of the user on the other side. The needs of the product obviously being that the product needs to make money and survive and turn a profit, and the needs of the user being they have this they have a thing they need or want, and they have a product they want to buy, or entertainment or whatnot. And this is like, because these needs are often conflicted, it's like a constant struggle of balance between the two. Which is fine in this ideal use case where this balance is matched, because this is the use case where this is the case where capitalism technically works, in the sense that you have market pressure on one side and you have the pressure of the user's needs on the other side, and they're kind of evenly matched. So the market corrects itself, and you get what you need. You pay as much as you need to for it, and it kind of works. In this very specific edge case, which capitalism kind of wants you to believe and strive for. Obviously, issues arise when one of these sides has leverage over the other, when the sides aren't balanced. When this is like the obvious example, when you have like one shop in town, you kind of have to go to that one shop, and you have to buy products from that one shop, no matter the price or the quality, because you have no other choice. So there's this constant struggle to create this leverage between product and user, and it's kind of always been this way because these interests are kind of opposed, in the sense of that businesses always try to gain leverage over the user, whether it's through fairly not sinister means like advertising, or something more grand or illegal like global monopolies and whatnot. So what happened well, it wasn't so bad, but like what happened as capitalism matured, the companies kind of learned, and we as a species, learned to scale these companies to like this global level. That's why, if you're wearing shoes, you might be wearing, Nikes or Adidas or Reeboks or whatever, and the quality will probably be the same. You can't really buy super high quality shoes for like super cheap. In like the average case, because all of these companies are so big and they're like they're not colluding per se, but they're kind of optimizing for the same thing, and they're kind of they have this leverage of globalization over you. And what happened with digital and like the internet and the past 10 to 20 years is digital kind of pushed these companies, allowed them to push this leverage even further, because now you have you can have this global monopoly much more quickly, much more cheaply, because you can basically overnight scale to a global level. Because if we look at the internet, there's a few very good examples. Like we basically have 2 phone manufacturers. We have like basically 1 web browser or 1.5. We have 1 search engine. We have 1 company that owns basically all the social apps, etc., etc. But like, we have 1 search engine, and that's kind of been our primary interaction point with the internet for a while. And what happens with that search engine? It obviously makes money if you're using it. If you're using it more, it's going to make more money in the sense that if you type something in to search for something, if you have to refine your search 2 times, so if you don't find what you're looking for the first time, you have to type it in again or like change it up to find what you're actually looking for, they're going to make 3 times the money. So, if their product is shittier, if their product is worse, they're going to make more money. And that's the fundamental issue with this business model. And like the competition in this case is so far off, there is 0 market pressure. And I'm sure I'm kind of stating the obvious for a lot of you here, because obviously we have monopolies, it's all great, but like, I thought this was obvious to everyone, and it's probably obvious to us because we're working in digital, and we've kind of lived through it. But I was talking to my sister a month ago, and she's actually that's the conversation that kind of inspired the inception of this talk. They don't really know. My sister's like 6 years younger than me, so it's like the critical difference of not seeing the previous state of the internet, not seeing this nice little good time where we, didn't yet have super hyper monetization. She was born in this algorithm first, feed default content consumption model. She doesn't know that Reddit had like an open API that had like a dozen of apps on Android and dozen of apps on iOS, and they didn't have this firm grip on their users. She doesn't really understand on the technical side that Reddit doesn't really need an app to show you the comments. TikTok doesn't really need you to create an account to see the video that somebody sent you. They just have enough cultural leverage over you to coerce you into making this account. When we started using the internet, we kind of used it actively, proactively, in the sense that if you were using the internet, you kind of opened your browser and you type something in, whether it was a URL or a Google search, but you kind of had to type something in to go do something. And that was our default, and we kind of mostly still do this. And the way they use the internet is much more passive. They're born in this feed-first, ecosystem that kind of delivers content to you, your serves content. That's why 13-year-olds get like random content that they're not really supposed to see, and we have these business models kind of preying upon that. And that's kind of what shaped their understanding of technology and the internet. And frankly, it's not really looking up, in the sense that we have all these global monopolies in digital and both in physical, and then capitalism has really matured, and we've really optimized how we build monopolies and whatnot, and like capture user data and user attention, etc. And it's really not looking up, in the sense that most of these products have the interests of the product, the business, and like the user completely opposed. And the more they scale, the more they build their product and their business, the worse it is for the end user. These products are just fundamentally broken. The business models are just fundamentally broken in that sense. And building digital products in 2025 kind of sucks. And it kind of really takes this small piece of your soul if you reach a certain level, and it's really a pain to kind of build. And yet we're here, we're building digital products, and we're here on like a niche Ethereum conference, a niche technology in Belgrade. And why are we actually here? Why haven't we just gone to the next buzzword and just went somewhere to make more money? Maybe we're here because we kind of still naively believe we can make a tiny bit of a difference. Maybe we're in this room and in this city and in Web3 and Ethereum and crypto, because we still feel like there might be a sliver of that promised internet left. Maybe we can still make something that kind of resembles that. Maybe we believe this initial promise of decentralization of Web3, of Ethereum, that it was going to be this infrastructure that gave us the tools to kind of make our products more aligned with our users. To kind of slightly make a little bit of difference. And if you've been here for a while, maybe you've been in the space for 5 years or more, maybe you try to make something that's decentralized, and nobody really used it, and then you pivoted to a pumped on fun type of project, or like a MySQL-based project, and people actually use this, and you're like, well, why the fuck am I building something decentralized if people don't really care? Because maybe decentralization and openness, transparency, security, privacy, all of these things, maybe they're not like the end goal on their own. Maybe they're not enough. Maybe they're not like the one thing the users are actually looking for. Maybe they're because the users aren't actually looking for like decentralized products. They're looking for products that are actually aligned with their interests. People and products and teams building them that actually care for them and actually want to make something that helps them and makes their day better, or makes them more secure, or makes doing something that they're trying to do easier. Maybe all of these things, decentralization, security, privacy, transparency, openness, all of these things that we have the tools for now, are actually just the way to get there. The way to keep ourselves accountable and keep ourselves on the right track, on the right path, which kind of helps us build something that's fundamentally aligned in the core of the business with the users. Maybe that's actually the way to get there. I really like when people ask us how we make money at DeFi Server, because the answer is this neat, well, we take a fee where we provide some additional value. And we otherwise, if we're not providing value, we're not making any money, so we're not making a profit. So we're like, it sounds very good, but I think it's in the core, the way DeFi has been set up, the way DeFi is, this open ecosystem, and there are people trying to make it more closed and create walled gardens and closed ecosystems, but generally DeFi is still kind of open and composable, and people still have a choice, and they can kind of there is market pressure essentially. There's no coercion yet. But the way DeFi has been set up right now, we kind of have to prioritize value first. We have to keep ourselves accountable in that way. It's the transparency and the openness and decentralization of DeFi, which is inherent, that kind of kept us focused on the value that we're providing through DeFi Server, and then kind of helped us focus on the value, focus on creating this kind of more balanced and fair, sustainable business model. And we have this opportunity with blockchain, and in this kind of moment where there's this new generation coming that hasn't seen this promise that we've been promised. You know, they don't even know it could exist, and we kind of have this opportunity to show it to them, to maybe show them a sliver of it and kind of build a part of it. This promised internet, this better default, to set the bar just a little bit more higher, kind of show them how it could have been. If we don't align our products with the user, actually, because now we kind of have the tools, we have all these, all this infrastructure and the tools to build these products in a sustainable way from the ground up, whether it's blockchain or tokenomics or game theory or decentralized ownership and all these ledgers and all of these things. If we don't use them, our products are doomed to be, fundamentally broken in this way, through this kind of divide of misaligned interests. And, I'm hoping that we can use these tools to kind of realign them, to kind of think from the ground up, because it doesn't necessarily have to be about scaling it to infinity. It doesn't have to be about being the biggest product and the biggest platform and maximizing profits until infinity. It doesn't have to be optimized for infinite growth. I think we can just optimize for a more balanced, a more fair, a more sustainable model. I think we can just optimize for maybe making the users, the person's day 1% better in any way through our products. And I think this is a humble goal, and I think this is a nice goal to have. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Welcome to Belgrade. Thank you. Welcome to Belgrade. Welcome to my home. I'm beyond grateful to be one of your hosts today, and I hope you'll have a nice time. I hope you'll visit Belgrade again, and I'll see you out there. Once again, thank you so much for your attention, and I'll see you out there.